How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Got a lot of wrestling news to get into here today. The Doctor of Lucha is going to join us in the final segment of the show. Couldn't make it on Friday, but he is ready to go here today. Got a lot of news to get into, Raw, SmackDown, but unfortunately today, Luke Perry, who played the beloved Dylan McKay on the hit coming-of-age series Beverly Hills 90210, has died. This from CNN. Perry, 52, died Monday after suffering a massive stroke. His publicist Arnold Robinson told CNN he was surrounded by his children, Jack and Sophie, fiancée Wendy Madison Bauer, ex-wife Minnie Sharp, mother Ann Bennett, stepfather Steve Bennett, brother Tom Perry, sister Amy Coder, and other close family and friends. The family appreciates the outpouring of support, prayers that have been extended to Luke from around the world, and respectfully request privacy in this time of great mourning. No further details will be released at this time. A statement from Robinson read, Luke Perry, of course, the father of the Jungle Boy, was wrestling all over the place, All Pro Wrestling, and recently signed to All Elite Wrestling. So, very, very sad. Obviously, all of our condolences go out to Jungle Boy, family of Luke Perry. Terrible news, suffered a stroke a couple of days ago, massive stroke, and never recovered. So, that's the story there. Really sad to hear that. And that's the story. So, don't know what else to say. If you want to give us a call today about this or any other topic, 844-411-5411 is the phone number. That is toll-free, 844-411-5411. Text messages, 425-780-7566. As noted, Raw to talk about tonight. We have members of the SNL cast are going to be on Raw tonight. Looks like the company is back to doing the guest host deal here for at least a little while. And the guest host always did help the rating a little bit. So we'll see if that helps tonight, just a little bit. And that's that. More to come after the break. Mike Sempervive joins us. Stick around. We'll be right back. Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Two members of the SNL cast, Saturday Night Live, appearing on tonight's episode of Raw. Michael Che, Colin Jost will be special guests on Monday's Raw episode taking place Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. The hosts of the Weekend Update news segment on SNL. The guest hosts are back for the time being. We'll see how often they do it, but they're going to be there. It's the go-home show for Fastlane. We got the follow-up to the Roman Reigns announcement, likely the announcement of the 2-on-3 match for the pay-per-view. Although, it's advertised as a 2-on-3 match, but there's a decent possibility that Dean Ambrose will be added tonight, and it will be a Shield reunion coming up at Fastlane. We got an update on Batista attacking Ric Flair. Charlotte is going to be there, and more to come. We also have to figure out what's going on with Ronda Rousey in the title. They're going to be making it a three-way, one way or the other. I wouldn't be surprised if they signed maybe Charlotte and Becky at the Fastlane show, and if Becky wins, she gets added to the match. They could always do that. We'll find out what they do tonight, but a lot of stuff coming up for Raw. We'll see how the show does. Didn't hit that 3.5 million average last week, and it's not going to do it this week, but maybe it'll be up again. Any thoughts, Mike?
I wonder if we're going to get Bobby Lashley's glutes featured on the show. I would assume we're going to get something like that again, too, with him and Lio Rush and Finn Balor as well, too. I mean, they need some matches for Fastlane here. There's 4 matches have been announced. One is from Raw so far. So I assume we're going to get a slew of matches announced tonight.
The person notes the Weekend Update guys are one of the only good things about Saturday Night Live recently. If they allow them to do their own version of the old pay-per-view reports with their own written material, it should be very good.
Oh boy.
If WWE writes it for them, probably not so good. What do you think's going to happen here, my friend?
Well,
who do you think's going to write their stuff tonight?
This could be a big old train wreck. It's Philadelphia, so who the hell knows what could happen? And if Colin Jost, I would assume that Jost and Michael Che are professionals who know where they are, and they may even be big wrestling fans for all I know. I have no idea, but there are also times where these types of things can go sideways, and if it's going to go sideways, I gladly welcome it being in Philadelphia because as a home viewer, it could be greatly entertaining.
All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on? You've been on the phone here for a good 5 minutes. Now's your chance. Going once. Going twice. Excellent call. In the Observer Live Caller Hall of Fame. That one right there. Some other news here to talk about. We've got All Elite Wrestling
That was your chance to transition into the Hall of Fame.
We'll get to that here in a while. All Elite Wrestling. Date and venue for the second show. This is interesting. So, Fight for the Fallen will be taking place at the Daly's Place Amphitheater, Jacksonville, Florida, Saturday, July 13th. It's connected to the TIAA Bank Field, home of the Jaguars. Listed capacity of 5,500. Tickets are going to be on sale soon. This is taking place a week after the opening night of the G1 Climax, which takes place at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. So, right now, the New Japan and the All Elite Wrestling crowds are very strongly fly-in crowds. People flying in from all over the country. And so, with these two in close proximity, I mean, what's going to happen is fans are going to have to make a decision. I mean, I'm sure there's some fans, not a lot, but I'm sure there's some fans who are going to want to fly to Dallas for the G1, and then a week later, they're going to fly to Jacksonville for Fight for the Fallen. But I would guess that's a very, very small number of fans that are going to actually do both of them. So what you're going to have is this fly-in crowd, which I would guess that a lot of the people that fly in for New Japan are the same people that fly in for AEW. I mean, they're going to have to make a decision. Are they going to go to Jacksonville for the AEW show, or are they going to go to Texas for the opening night of the G1? Is the G1 audience going to take away from the AEW audience? And if so, how dramatically? So that's a very, very interesting date. We knew it was going to be July. I knew it was going to be July. We talked about it here on the show. Didn't know when, but there you go. Now we know. July 6th and July 13th, New Japan, and then All Elite Wrestling.
I think AEW's got to make a decision there, too, on how they want to treat this show as far as where do you put your marketing dollars? Because I would put them a lot more locally, and I would make sure that anybody that's willing to come from Atlanta and make the drive to Jacksonville or come from Charlotte or Knoxville or wherever, I mean, as close as you can get it around, anybody within 2 hours, 3 hours, you know, I'm aiming at those people, because at least for the first time, you got to figure if somebody's going to be flying in somewhere, it's a lot easier to do it 4th of July weekend, and Dallas being a big hub and being a pretty good-sized epicenter, and the fact that this is the first G1 to take place, you know, obviously outside of what's taking place in Madison Square Garden, calling it the G1 Supercard, but this is the first night of the G1 taking place in Dallas, so if I'm AEW, obviously I want people to fly in for my show. I'm not saying I ignore those people, but I really make sure that I own that corner of the country as much as I can the week after, and don't expect there to be the number of fly-ins that they've had or will have for Double or Nothing or for the first show.
Well, let's go to the phones. You are on the air. What is going on?
Hey, Brian. Hey, Mike. It's Glenn from Connecticut, and I had two questions. The first one was regarding the Ronda and Becky Tweet Fest. Did you see how Tyler Breeze and Luke Harper had gotten involved?
I did not see how they'd gotten involved, but I heard that a lot of the WWE wrestlers were responding to this. What did they say?
Well, Tyler decided to copy what Ronda did, calling out Luke Harper and saying, "I don't care what's in the script, I'm going to kick the crap out of you." And then Luke Harper responded jokingly that you should have called out somebody on TV. And then both of them, Luke Harper claimed he had been hacked jokingly and deleted it, and Tyler Breeze followed suit. So in case anyone actually thought that Ronda and Becky was true, you can see WWE reining in other people joking about it.
Yes. All right, what's your second question?
And the second question is, how did WoW Women of Wrestling get a TV deal? I love Chikara. I watched all 4 seasons of Lucha Underground, and I quit WoW 4 episodes in.
Well, I mean, I want to thank you very much for the call. I mean, when they got their television deal, they hadn't even taped yet. So, I mean, my guess is that the people at Access Television, they've got New Japan, and they wanted something different. And trust me, WOW is different. And they looked at women's wrestling as being something that a lot of people are talking about. And a lot of people are talking about it. I mean, it's kind of weird. It actually isn't lighting the world on fire as much as everybody is starting their women's divisions and talking about women's wrestling and promoting women's wrestling and the women's evolution and all of that stuff. I mean, it really isn't lighting the world on fire. I mean, I don't think it's made any difference in business for any company that's promoted women's wrestling, like actual business. But when everybody's talking about it, I mean, it seems like a big deal. That's what I presume. I don't have any inside details on why they got the television deal, but Access just must have seen something in the potential of women's wrestling. And so away they went. This person here says, if AEW is going to depend on a fly-in crowd, they've got problems. Well, right now they're depending on a fly-in crowd because all they do are run occasional big shows. But if they get television, which is expected, and they get a good national television deal, I mean, once you start running television, then you can start booking events and drawing from the local market. And just like with what Ring of Honor is doing, I presume with their West Coast tour, I mean, you start to get some demographics. You start to find out what markets are strong. I know that for if I recall correctly, for the Ring of Honor, Seattle was always a strong market for them. And so when you get information on strong markets that are watching your television, markets that buy your merchandise in larger numbers, then you start targeting those markets and you start drawing fans locally. That's how it's done. But right now they don't have any of that. I mean, I guess they could look at T-shirt sales on PW Pro Wrestling Tees, but it'll be less of a fly-in crowd as they get going. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Angry fan here. Torrie Wilson getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame as garbage.
Oh.
What exactly did she achieve other than being pretty? Now there is zero limit as to who will get in. Candice Ashley Maria. This is the one that has set him off. Torrie Wilson being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Announced via ESPNW today. DX and the Honky Tonk Man are the other acts that have been confirmed for the 2019 class thus far. Torrie said, it feels like sweet closure. Since I retired, so many people have asked me, do you feel bad you've never won a title? I've always said no. I felt like I got the value, even though it would have been nice to win a title, but being inducted into the Hall of Fame feels like a championship belt to me. It really makes me feel appreciated.
Aww.
You know, I like the Honky Tonk Man. I mean, he's a total gimmick. We've gotten along. We've hung out together. Seems like a nice fella.
Mm-hmm.
I have absolutely no problem with the Honky Tonk Man. Yeah. But for younger fans today, I'm not even burying the Honky Tonk Man. I'm just pointing something out here. The greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, that was a total gimmick. He was a comedy guy who ended up with the belt, and he kept managing to not lose the belt. Like, I'm trying to even think about who you could compare that to today. It was not like he was Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels.
That was the point. He wasn't.
Who got the championship, and he beat everybody for it, and the belt was prestigious. It was a comedy deal that he was the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. I mean, I'm not saying the Honky Tonk Man should not be in the Hall of Fame. All I'm saying is, like, anybody can go in this Hall of Fame, everybody. Torrie Wilson can go in. And, yes, I'm sure at some point, what are those other names that he mentioned? I mean, Candice Michelle's probably going to go in. Wouldn't be surprised if Ashley Massaro, Maria went in. Like, they're all going to go in.
Nobody's had a little turn and bop like Candice Michelle ever has, so I think that would be worthy enough right there.
It's not a real Hall of Fame. It's a marketing gimmick.
James Dudley, Vince Sr.'s limo driver, is in the Hall of Fame.
This person here says Torrie should make the baseball and every other Hall of Fame based on her looks. She's that good looking. Hey, Both of you have made a fine argument for her being in or out. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
It's a fake Hall of Fame. If you think she should go in because she's hot, that's as good a reason as any go into the WWE Hall of Fame. If you think she should never go in because she never did anything in your mind, then she shouldn't go in.
You were a young man at that time during her come up. Was she, when she debuted, did you look at her and go, this is the hottest woman to ever appear in wrestling?
I don't know if I thought that, but she was very, very attractive.
She's got about 86, 87, 88. Missy Hyatt is right in there. Elizabeth, one of the most beautiful women to ever be in wrestling. Lots of them. Stacy Keibler and Torrie Wilson kind of changed how, of course, now they had neither of one of which had anything to do with wrestling whatsoever and had to actually, transition into the ring. I don't know if that was ever the intention for either one of them in the first place, but they certainly changed how things went, and not necessarily in a good way. They were part of that transition away from actual in-ring wrestling into just looking really hot, but they were very good at it.
Let's go to the phones. You are on the air. What is going on?
This is William from Tracy, California.
Yes, William.
I have two things. I was calling about the recent reports reporting that Arn Anderson was let go because of he allowed Alicia Fox to wrestle while being intoxicated during a live event, and that's why we haven't seen Alicia Fox in the past 3 weeks. That was reported by Fightful from Sean Ross Sapp and Wrestling Inc. in the past few hours. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And also, I wanted to get your thoughts on Sabu and his recent Twitter tirade. He's been suspended from Twitter for hateful conduct, and I wanted to get your thoughts on if Impact officials should, think about reprimanding him and might not allow him to wrestle the Lucha Brothers during WrestleMania weekend with RVD.
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. As far as what Impact does, I didn't see any of the comments. I don't know what he did. I know he's done a lot of crazy things on Twitter. Got to do something pretty crazy to get suspended.
Yeah.
I don't know. Impact will make... on the grand scheme,
they're not pulling them from
mistakes Impact has made. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't see what it was to set it off, but it would have to be pretty major for Impact to pull him and that match off of that show. I would tend to doubt it, but...
As far as Arn and Alicia Fox, all I can tell you is I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but that is the story. And I don't know details of the story. Like, I don't know how intoxicated she was. I don't know what decision that he made. I don't know why he made the decision. It could have been a situation where he didn't think that she was extremely intoxicated, but she was. I don't know what the story was, but that is absolutely the story. And Vince and Arn got into a big kerfluffle about it, and Arn ended up fired. And I will say this. This is the story that has been going around for a while now. It didn't just come out today. Like, the wrestlers were aware of it. And for whatever it's worth, there were a lot of wrestlers that backed Arn. I don't know why. I don't know what that means about the story, but that's what I can tell you. So that's the update on Arn and Alicia Fox. And as far as her not being gone, Alicia Fox regularly vanishes for extended periods of time. They just have nothing to do with her. So I have no idea if one has anything to do with the other.
When it comes to the wrestlers, it may just be more about supporting Arn, even if he did something wrong. So that may be it right there, too, because he obviously has got his set of support from guys. So, that wouldn't shock me at all if it's just about that.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hi, this is Ishmael in Virginia.
Yes, Ishmael.
So, I was just wondering, with Dean Ambrose being a babyface again without actually turning, if the WWE probably were getting updates with Roman Reigns' health along the way, and they weren't in the dark like the fan base was, why wouldn't they have Ambrose just remain a heel and have Roman come back and just kick his ass, instead of somehow now Dean Ambrose are all going to team up again, even though he was just making fun of his cancer maybe 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago on television. So it's totally illogical, and it points to the bigger picture of what I was actually saying back in the India negotiations when they were really headlong into India. I was saying that was just an example of Vince being very old and very easy to manipulate by his inner circle. He was probably told in one offhand conversation, hey, there's, 500 million or 1.2 billion people in India. We make so much money there without actually doing any research. Just like how apparently one conversation about the XFL trademark, he's willing to throw hundreds of millions of dollars into this. I think this is a really troubling sign.
Well, a couple of things.
For the future of
Hold on one sec. Couple of things. So first off, as far as Dean Ambrose goes, I mean, when word got out that he was not going to re-sign, and it was all over the internet, and so WWE put out their own statement saying that he did not plan to re-sign, my immediate thought was, I don't think you're ever going to see him on Raw again. I thought that job that he did to Seth Rollins clean in the middle, I thought that was it for him. Why put the guy on TV and do stuff with him if he's gonna leave? So next week he shows up on television, and he did a job. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I just want to have him be on TV and lose on the way out. Okay, that's fine.
Feud with Nia.
So the next week he shows up and he wins. I was like, what? And so Dave explains. Well,
it's a debuting EC3, by the way. Let's note that.
Yes. Dave says, well, they don't want him to leave, and so they're going to, push him really hard on the way out, hoping that he won't leave.
Dumb.
And I thought, I mean, I understand the mindset there, but to me, it's like, dude, if this guy's on his way out, you ain't going to change his mind. So why bother? Well, I don't know for sure, okay? But the rumor this weekend is he is no longer leaving. So if what they did, turning him babyface, dropping this Roman Reigns thing, putting the Shield back together, and everything that they have done has convinced him to re-sign his contract, then you know what? I was wrong and Vince was right. And I guess we'll see. But I mean, like I said, the rumor this weekend was that he was probably staying. I'm not reporting that Dean Ambrose is not leaving. I'm telling you what people were talking about this weekend. There is a belief that he's not leaving now. We will find out, okay? He may still leave. But it is interesting, if he's staying, this is awfully weird to put him back together and do a Shield reunion and put him in a prominent position at Fastlane and a six-man. I mean, he may very well not be leaving because they started pushing him when he threatened to go. And again, like I said, not everyone can threaten to leave. Your contract has to be up. If you've got 4 years left, it does you no good to threaten to leave. It's not going to happen unless they see nothing in you and they let you go. But this is a pretty interesting thing right here.
Could this just, though, also be a case of that's what they know how to do? Is the big Roman got good news to come back? We're going to do this big conquering thing over these other guys?
No, they could have him come back and destroy Dean Ambrose repeatedly on the way out because that would make sense in the actual storyline they wrote.
Yeah, but when does that ever get in their way?
Back in a moment, DR Luch. We're back here in the show. Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. The Doctor of Lucha joins us here today. He was unavailable on Friday, but he is back now. And
my health is better.
Yes, had a rough couple of days, but all is well.
Uh-huh.
And now we've got Lucha Libre to talk about. Thankfully, nothing was going on of late.
Well, yeah, it really is. With CMLL and to a degree with AAA, once they announce their cards for big shows, then they have a really hard time keeping interest up for the 2 or 3 shows between the announcement and the actual big card. CMLL in particular has just got, they've got their match, and they're not going to do anything else really exciting until Dos Leyendas. But Dos Leyendas is next weekend, so we won't have to wait long to get back into a pattern where they pick up the steam.
Well, let's talk about TV.
We may be able to see it in the U.S. on TV.
Yeah, what's going on with television?
The sad thing is that having just teased that is that it seems to change. It seems to change fairly frequently, and we're not quite sure. Blue Panther Jr. did a video spot that mentioned it might be available in the U.S. on Univision Deportes, and then the tweet got deleted, I guess, or the video got deleted, and so we're not quite sure if that's going to happen. And then we were specifically told it was going to be on Channel 9 in Mexico on this Saturday for the first show of CMLL's return to Televisa after years and years and years of being off. But it's not on. You go to the Televisa website or the TV Guide website for Mexico, and it's not there. It's frustrating, and it may just mean they haven't gotten around to it, or it may mean they've not decided what to do yet on it. I think the goal is that it's going to air as on a one-day basis delay rather than an 8-day basis delay, which would be Televisa's preference. I don't know if it would be CMLL's preference. But Televisa would prefer to have it because it's very, they're not showing the day after Dos Leyendas, the go-home show for Dos Leyendas. They're showing Dos Leyendas. So I think Televisa would prefer it that way. CMLL doesn't want to, I don't think they should worry about this, but they're a very old-school promotion, and they think in old-school ways. And they may be concerned. They may literally be concerned in the home office that airing the show on Televisa one day later will depress house show attendance at that show.
So what's up with AAA television?
Something they should be worried about these days?
What's up with AAA and Twitch and their whole deal?
As far as I can tell, they are going to air on TV Azteca on quite a delay. Azteca 7 is the stronger of the two. TV Azteca has Channel 7 and 13 and over the air and in the main cable boxes in Mexico. Televisa is 2, 5, 7, and 9. And the TV Azteca, or the Azteca 7, was actually gotten a really, really good rating for the debut show, which I can see. I can see that. It'll be much more interesting to see what the second and the third show does. But all of the signs this year, guys, is that AAA is doing really, really, really well. Their business is doing really, really well, and the fact that they air the show live on Twitch doesn't seem to be a problem with Azteca America. I always thought it would be a problem for Televisa, but maybe it isn't really for Azteca America, that you could see stuff live on another channel before you saw it on theirs.
So why is there business up this year? What would you attribute that to?
In general, I suspect it has to do with three factors, and I'm not sure how quite to rate the three. One is that the economy in Mexico is relatively stable. And stable economies indicate, fans can count on what their expenses are going to be, and they can go out and they can make purchases to go to the house shows, and the TV will follow. If there's some interest in the house show matches, the TV will follow from that. People around the country will make up the bulk of the rating. Mexico City is about a third of the TV audience, and the rest is the rest of the country. So I think the economy helps. I think the fact that Conan is back, there's more of as you can tell by the shows that have built to Rey de Reyes, there's more of an organizational structure. So things are starting to make sense. And there's a week-to-week storyline that people can follow. And being on TV for 27 years in Televisa has continued. The third reason, which is probably the biggest reason, is just going to Lucha Libre shows, because they only come to your town once or twice a year, is a thing to do. It's much more a thing to do than it is in any other country in the world. It's just part of the Mexico culture.
Steve, selling out anywhere is obviously impressive. Conan retweeted out a AAA TV taping picture from Monterey of 6,500 people. Is that as impressive as the picture would indicate? Is that go with what you're talking about as far as just business rebounding?
Well, it's not enough for them to go out and recruit Bryce Harper. They'll have to try some other stars to fill up their shows. Filling up the house that you have is really very good. They have been having decent attendances throughout the country for a while now. It's not just this past since they restarted after the traditional Christmas vacation and started up with their 2019 schedule. They really had a good run for since about Triple Mania, and I think that they are. I think they are modernizing the product. I should add probably a fourth reason. They're modernizing the product, and they're emphasizing some of the younger stars. Because one of the big drains I thought that AAA had on Televisa for a long time was the same people being on top for a long time. And I think they've done a good job in trying to create some new stars, Rudos and Technicos on it. But their business models and how they're running the business is going very well right now.
On Sunday, I was looking at Rob Viper's Twitter feed, and he was talking about the Crash show and brought up Diamante Azul, and he was far less than enthralled with Azul's performance, teaming with Jeff Cobb against Hechicero and Michael Elgin. Tell me about Diamante Azul. Does he fall in the category of a Mr. Niebla type of entertainer?
Well, I'm not so sure it's that. He's got it's more Granda-esque than Mr. Niebla-esque. I think he's got a gimmick that, I like the strongest man in the world gimmick. If I were running a wrestling promotion, I would have a guy that's the strongest guy in the world or the strongest guy in Mexico or the strongest guy in my promotion. And that's supposed to kind of be his gimmick. It started out that he was going to be the modern day Blue Demon, but that, that's why he is called the Blue Diamond. It's a takeoff on that. That was how CMLL wanted him to turn out, but he's turned out to be the kind of guy who's the strongest guy in the promotion. But he's just not very good in the ring, and in this day, in modern age, a big guy, a strong guy who's not very good in the ring can have a job, but what do you do with him? Things are so moves-focused and offense-focused, and the wrestling and the lucha of 2019 is so much about offense, and less about struggle. What do you do with a struggle guy? If things were, in a different era, you could hide his limitations a lot better. But he's a very rough worker, and from what I can tell, I've never met him, but from what I can tell, he's apparently pretty arrogant too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Was it aptitude or attitude or a little bit of both?
More. I think it's more attitude than anything. By now, with the people, if you've got Ultimo Guerrero as a trainer in your organization, theoretically, if you wanted to be good at wrestling, you could, because he can make almost anybody good. If that's the sort of thing you want to do, Diamante Azul is an attraction. He's got his role and his place. He's just being over-pushed. He's not as bad as Bestia Del Ring, but he's the next category or level above that. And in this day and age, that's the niche he's probably going to fill forever. He seems to be happy with it. I haven't even gotten to the fact that he's not full-time because for reasons that we know only the highlights of, not the specifics. He's got a wife who is French and has a job and a career that she has to travel back and forth between Mexico and France. And it's like a lucrative career, we have been told. And he is just gone from the scene for a third to a half of the year.
All right, we got to talk about this before we run out of time. The main event of Triple Mania this year is going to be Blue Demon Jr. versus Dr. Wagner Jr. Mask versus hair.
Which is a story, but of course, to us, the bigger story is that it's not L.A. Park.
Yes.
Mask versus hair against Wagner Jr. once Park left and burned this bridge, and who knows, there is still 7 months or 6 months left. 5 months left. There's 5 months left. Theoretically, he could unburn that bridge, but I doubt it. I think they're going to run with what they have. I think that Demon is an acceptable substitute because to the masses, that is a legendary mask. It really is. It's one of the top 3 or 4 legendary masks of all time, and he rarely defends his mask in a mask match. So it'll draw. It will draw. They'll make some money off of it, and they're charging ticket prices accordingly. This could be their most expensive ticket price they've ever had, which is another sign, that they are very confident about business. But artistically and feud-wise, Park and Wagner have been feuding for years, and that's the feud everybody wanted to see.
So how well is this going to draw?
I think it could sell out. I mean, there are 20 million people in Mexico City, and you only got to fill 22,000 seats. It could draw. Blue Demon was at best, I mean, he's kind of like Diamante Azul. He's at best confident. He can be led into a match. Yano 4 used to always have relatively decent matches with him, so it can be done. But Wagner's going to have to sell all the tickets. He's going to have to try and sell the tickets, and as we know from Santo matches, even though people know the result ahead of time, the Demon's not going to lose. They will still fill up to see the spectacle of it all, of a big mask at risk. So I wouldn't be surprised if it sold out. In fact, that would be my guess right now.
I could be wrong, but I seem to recall when we were talking about the potential L.A. Park Wagner match last year, you were kind of like, nah, Wagner's hair.
No, I was. In that Wagner hair against Park mask, they had tried it in Mexico City in Santos promotion, in AAA and CMLL, and those two, for whatever reason, even though the hardcore fans want it, it just never caught fire. To one point, Park just broke kayfabe and says, "Look, if we can't fill up 10,000 seats at Juan de la Barrera, we're not going to have this feud match." And they didn't. They sold out for the go home show that would have set up the mask match. They had it half full. But that Demon mask is something else. It really is. It really is. Being on the line is going to sell a lot of tickets.
All right, we'll stand by back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. The Doctor of Lucha is here. Before we get to plugs, this person here texted to say, from what I remember last year, when Wagner tried to challenge Park, Park said, "Why would I wrestle you? You already lost your mask. Your hair means nothing." That did happen. Poor build.
Yes, it was a way to try and build up the card the match if it had taken place, if it had ever taken place.
Yeah, I can think of better ways to build up a match than that one.
They will do it. Maybe they'll do it in the U.S. Not this WrestleMania weekend, but next WrestleMania weekend in the year.
Perhaps. What do we got coming up in the new Figure 4?
Well, in the new Figure 4 for the next 2 weeks are the preview of the next 2 shows. On March the 15th, CMLL does Dos Leyendas, and the Angel de Oro and Diablo Roja will face Bestia and Terrible in a hair match. So that's this week's issue, predictions and preview. And then next week is AAA with on March the 16th with Rey de Reyes. 39 wrestlers, 3 referees, 7 matches, and broadcast on 4 or 5 different networks, according to their poster.
Wow. Well, there you go, everybody. You can check it out in the new issue of Figure 4 Weekly. Figure 4 is available for subscribers at WrestlingObserver.com. New issue every week. All the back issues are up as well. A lot of them. I can't say all of them, but probably 70% of the back issues are up. And you get a new Wrestling Observer every week. Dave's back writing the Observer start to finish with 9 fingers, I think is what he's at right now. And, of course, back issues of the Observer. Well, you get all the radio shows. Almost 10,000 radio shows in the archives. We do no shows every single day, so check those out. Dr. Luch here, usually every week here on Wrestling Observer Live. Bunch of shows in the archives as well. So thanks as always, Dr. Luch. Mike as well, callers and listeners. We'll talk to you again next time. Wrestling Observer Live.